another episode of Creative Writing Advice with me, JJ Barnes. If you don't know me, I'm JJ. I'm the author of How to Write a Story, which is out now. It takes you from the beginning of your story all the way through the middle to the end. And basically it covers a lot of the same topics that I do over here on YouTube, but obviously it's in book form. It's something you can refer to. Here on YouTube, what I'm doing is taking different pieces of writing advice. I try to break them down and then build them back up again in a way that you can understand and use in your own story. I'm trying to give you the confidence and the skills that you can use to get your story out into the world. I always say this, but I'm going to say it again anyway. The world needs more stories, and I'm trying to help make yours one of them. So today I'm going to be talking about how to write sex scenes. Now, sex scenes won't appear in every book, and that's fine. I've only written a sex scene for one book. I've written sex happening in books, as in it is an event which occurs, but I haven't explored it. The only book that I wrote a sex scene in which does actually get properly, like, the details of it was After the Mad Dog in the Fog. And the sex in that it's a really key significant event between these two characters and worthy of the exploration. So don't feel that if you're writing a romance story or just a story where two people are sexually active together that you have to write about it. You don't have to go into a lot of detail. You can just say that they have done that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not something you should feel pressured to write. But if you feel like your story would benefit from a sex scene, or if you're specifically writing erotica and want to know how to develop a sex scene so it will have the best impact it can, hopefully this will help. So the first thing to remember about when you're writing a sex scene is you want to root yourself in one POV character. That means one person, and you start your scene with them in their point of view and you stick with them. The reason is, if you start jumping about between two or however many people are active in that scene, you lose the connection with your audience. Because when we are in a sexual relationship, when we have sex, you are only experiencing it from you. You know what it feels like for you. You know what it looks like for you. You might know what you're doing is pleasing to the other person by how they respond, but you can't feel it yourself. So if you try and give them a God perspective and you start giving them, your audience, the sensations and the feelings of all these different people, or usually I think it would usually just be two, but I'm not going to judge, then you're going to overwhelm them because we aren't used to that. We don't feel that. We just feel it ourselves. So you want to ground them with that character because it will make it feel more real. It will make it feel more alive and more personal. Just give them one POV character and use that person's sensations to connect them, and it will make it feel more alive. The second thing to do is really, really, really focus on your show, not tell usage and your technique. That means don't just tell your audience, this character did this character did that. It's too prescriptive and it feels too clinical. If you want that sex scene to come alive and to feel real and to feel passionate and to feel like people are really bonding and moving and connecting in a way that your audience is going to respond to, show, don't tell. That means instead of saying he ran his hand down her arm, describe how his fingers feel on her skin. You still communicate that that is what's happening, but by showing her response to it, showing her feelings, showing how her skin trembles, showing how it triggers whatever, her hopes for more things to happen, her nervousness, her excitement, whatever it is that touch responds with, you show it to them rather than telling them. Because again, you are trying to, with these sex scenes, you are trying to build a very intimate connection with your reader. Because sex is a very intimate thing. And if your audience feels like they're outside of your sex scene looking in, because they are being told, this character's doing this character's doing that, they feel like an observer. They feel like they are not part of it. And a sex scene is supposed to be intimate. You're not going to bother writing one if you're not trying to draw your audience into that relationship. if you're not trying to make them be part of it, if you're not trying to stimulate your audience and excite them, why bother writing it? You could just tell them that they had sex and then move on. The reason you're writing it is to make them feel part of it. So give them the feelings, describe the sensations, really get into how their skin responds, the feelings in their body, the emotions that they're feeling, everything like that. And it will feel more alive, more passionate, and more real. A really, really, really important thing for writing a sex scene is don't feel awkward. Don't hold back, right? Again, if you're writing one, write one. Because if you go in half-hearted or awkward or kind of withdrawn and like you're really difficult writing this sex scene, you don't need to bother, because most stories can do fine without one. You can write romance stories without sex scenes. You can write adventure stories, obviously, without sex scenes. You don't have to put sex in for your story to work. Unless you're writing erotica, in which case I'm assuming you're not going to be awkward about it anyway, because that's your chosen genre. But don't go in half-assed. Don't do it in a way that tells your audience that you, the writer, feels uncomfortable exploring those bodies, because if you, the writer, are uncomfortable exploring those bodies and those movements and those sensations, your audience will feel uncomfortable reading it. And sex shouldn't be uncomfortable, even in fiction. You want that to be part of it. Obviously, if you're writing, say, like two nervous teenagers having their first sexual encounter, then awkwardness might well come into it. But really what I'm talking about is a sex scene that is designed to be romantic and passionate and sexual, not a sort of plot device to show the awkwardness between two people, because that's a different kind of scene. Essentially, that's not even a sex scene if sex happens. That is a scene about character dynamics and awkwardness and development. And you might take them on an arc where later they have sex and you go into the full passionate eroticism of it. Erotica. You go into the full passion of it. But to start with, you're having them a different kind of scene. But if you are writing a scene that is meant to be sexual and passionate, don't go in awkward. The last tip that I'm really going to focus on as well is something that some people might be like, oh, you're an angry feminist, or oh, blah, blah, blah. But, right, for me, this is a really key part. Cover the issue of consent. Don't have like a big long conversation. Hello, I would like to touch your nipple now. Yes, you may touch my nipple now. No, don't do that, because that's unnatural and people don't really communicate like that. But you can communicate consent very naturally by making sure it is clear both to your audience and your characters that both people in that scene, or again, more if you're writing a big thing, actively want that sexual relationship to happen. Make it clear there is active enthusiasm and consent. It doesn't have to be a stilted conversation. It just has to be both characters being very, very clear that what they want to happen is happening and that they are both happy with it. Again, if you are writing a scene where consent isn't present and you're writing a rape scene or an assault scene or just somebody who is or an assault scene, this is not a sex scene that I'm talking about. This is not a sex scene, that is an abuse scene or an attack scene. Again, even if sex happens, it wouldn't count as a sex scene because sex isn't the point, it's that dynamic. But in a relationship, in a romance, in an erotica, in any kind of story where the sex is wanted and is supposed to be exciting and pleasurable, both parties need to actively want it, and that should be clear. I mean, this could just be me, but I find I get booted out if I'm not sure, and I start wondering about the dynamics of it. You need your audience to know that they can relax into it, and what's happening should feel relaxing. If your audience is reading it and is not sure what the dynamic here is, not sure how the parties feel. They'll be distracted, wondering if there's going to be pain and regret later. You can't relax into a sexual encounter if in the back of your mind you're thinking, is everybody happy? Are they enjoying this? Is this what they want? You can't relax and enjoy it because you're distracted by all of those emotional things that are going on that could be negative. So make it clear your audience can relax, enjoy it, experience that sexual relationship with your character, and it'll just be better. Relaxed, human, relatable, describing and exploring touch through sensation and showing, not telling. Welcome them in by sticking in a POV. And it will feel real, it will feel alive, and it will feel entertaining and exciting for your audience. And it'll just make your story better. As I say, if you don't want to put sex scenes in your story, it's fine. But if you do, you can do them well and you can make them a really, really good part of your story. So I hope this has been helpful, and I hope that if you go into writing a sex scene, you're going to feel confident and inspired and able to do it with, to give it justice, to give it the exciting sensations and joy it deserves. Don't go in awkward, go in bold, go in strong, and really go for it because your story will benefit from it. Thank you very much for watching another one of my videos. I hope this has been helpful. If you go to my website, which is jjbonds.co.uk, over there you'll find links to all my work. You'll also find all my social media, so you can come and chat to me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or drop me a comment on this video. Talk to me. What do you think makes a good sex scene? Tell me some sex scenes you've loved, some sex scenes maybe you haven't. What would you want from one? Because everyone's different, and you might particularly enjoy a more clinical approach to a sex scene. I mean, I don't, and I don't think most people do, but talk to me because I'm always willing to listen and learn, and maybe I'm wrong. Thank you very much. Don't forget you can subscribe to this channel. I put out a video every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. And I'll be back again soon. Thank you very much. Bye.